Hi, I'm Felipa, and today is day 113 of my 365-day commitment to complete reading the Bible. So we are still very thick in Job questioning what his purpose in life is, why he's being punished, why the good prosper, and what his relationship is related to God. We start on chapter 22 today, where his friend Eliphaz says that man's goodness does not profit God. This is a deep one because I get this, and at the same time, then it would beg to ask the question of, then who does it profit? Yes, of course, I understand. It is the man. It is a human being who benefits from good or bad. But beyond that, I haven't thought of it, or I haven't thought into it too much. So verse 2 says, "Can a man be profitable unto God, as he that is wise may be profitable unto himself? Is it any pleasure to the Almighty that thou art righteous? Or is it gain to him that thou makest thy ways perfect? Will he reprove thee for fear of thee? Will he enter with thee into judgment?" Next section, Eliphaz again, "Admit you're wicked." In verse 5 says, "Is not thy wickedness great, and thy iniquities infinite?" So essentially summarizing this whole section by saying we are literally wicked through and through. Next section with Eliphaz saying, "Repent and make peace with God." And then chapter 23, Job comes back into the conversation and he says, "Where can I find God?" So he's going back and forth in his thought process, saying, I am trying to find God. And in this section, he says God will not change his mind. And in verse 13, it says, "But he is in one mind, and who can turn him? And what his soul desireth, even that he doeth." This first line is a little bit perplexing to me because I'm reading it in two different ways. One, saying, "But he is in one mind," either it means that God has his own mind, or he is one mind. He is in one mind because God created everything and everybody. Therefore, we are all collectively his mind. We all collectively have one mind. In chapter 24, Job once again continues saying that wickedness often goes unpunished. So he's taking stock of all these experiences, things he's witnessed, things he's learned, things that I think he has pondered about with, thieves and murderers and transgressors, and he's talking about that. In chapter 25, his other friend Bildad says, "No one is justified before God." And Job comes back and says, "Your advice is useless. How can this help me?" Then he continues on here. He says God's power is infinite and unsearchable. I'm not quite sure if this is the first time I'm seeing the word hell. I think I'd have to go back. I feel like I would have highlighted the first time that the word Satan and hell came up, and I feel like this is the first time I'm seeing hell. I could be wrong. I do not recall. If you guys know the answer, let me know. Chapter 27, Job says, "I'm innocent." So he is still holding to this notion that, he has done nothing but abide by God. Summarizes here that the wicked will face punishment. And in chapter 28, he talks about how true wisdom is God's alone. And this is such a fascinating section. About halfway through in verse 12, it starts with this piece of, "But where shall wisdom be found, and where is the place of understanding? Man knoweth not the price thereof, neither is it found in the land of the living. The depth saith, It is not in me, and the sea saith, It is not with me. It cannot be gotten for gold, neither shall silver be weighed for the price thereof. It cannot be valued with the gold of Ophir, with the precious onyx or the sapphire. The gold and the crystal cannot equal it, and the exchange of it shall not be for jewels of fine gold. No mention shall be made of coral or of pearls, for the price of wisdom is above rubies. The topaz of Ethiopia shall not equal it, neither shall it be valued with pure gold. Whence then cometh wisdom, and where is the place of understanding? Seeing it is hid from the eyes of the living." So he really talks about how wisdom is this kind of like foreign, almost unsearchable thing that you can search for, but you can never really put your finger on it. And then he kind of does he talks about this little section where he says that in God's process of looking for wisdom and the way he understands it, in verse 28, Job says, "And unto man he said, Behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding." The last couple of sections, verse or chapter 29, Job says, "I grieve for my former prosperity and honor." So he basically talks about how God was beside him. God helped him prosper. Job had integrity. He had a wonderful life. People listened to him. Right here in verse 14, he says, "I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My judgment was as a robe and a diadem. Unto me men gave ear and waited, and kept silence at my counsel. After my words they spake not again, and my speech dropped upon them." So really talking about how he was, not only affluent, but people listened to what he had to say. He was revered. Now he says, "I'm an object of ridicule." So he talks about that piece here. He questions, is he being punished by God? And what sins have I committed? So he goes back and forth in this giant kind of monologue talking about thinking that, how could I have committed any sin? I did all these good things. I wasn't vain. And he also kind of says, if that's not the case, let my arm fall from my shoulder. Let my arm be broken from the bone. So he's calling out this notion that he hasn't sinned. And this is kind of where we end this piece today. Tomorrow is day 114. It'll be December 23rd. We'll start on chapter 32, where our fourth friend, Elihu, decides to speak. And I will see where we go from here. If you have any thoughts, please let me know, because this is very deep and a very fascinating chapter. Thank you for listening.